2022 meeting of the Zoning Board of Canandaigua. We'll begin the meeting as is our custom by a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'd like to take a moment of silence in recognition of our armed forces. Yeah. Okay. We have quite a few people on Zoom tonight, I see, and we'll have the protocol that we've used is that when people are on Zoom, they will be muted. When they wish to be recognized, they'll indicate that to Shauna, and we'll have them unmuted. The only other procedural issue tonight, I think it only applies to one of our applicants, and that is we have only 4 of us. The Ontario County Planning Board ruled against one of the applicants, and therefore we would have to have a supermajority for all 4 of us. Would have to vote for that application tonight. Simple majority of 3 would not do. Okay. Continued public hearing. Brian and Mary Weiser from the 3981 County Road 16, Canandaigua. They're requesting an area variance, 2.7 variance for lot coverage, 1% variance for building coverage, and 104 square foot, which I think is now down to 92. Is that correct?
Yes, there.
For the size of an accessory structure, and a 37-foot variance from the property line.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. So based on the last meeting we were at, we had, I think, 5 variance requests, and the request of the meeting was for us to try to cut that back, and also to provide some examples, I think, of other structures. So we did take the number of variances from 5 down to 3. I think this says 4, but it's actually 3, and I think the ones mentioned, right, the height of the shed of the structure is one of the ones we brought down, so that's no longer variance. On the building coverage, we reduced the footprint of the shed to the length, and therefore eliminated that variance. We did also provide 8 examples of what we could find, or the best we could find, that we thought could help Shauna determine if there were any good comparisons, I think, is what you wanted us to do. So that leaves the remaining 3 variances that we're requesting. One is the lot coverage, but we did again reduce that by 2.5% by taking the footprint of the shed down. The other variance is the allowable square footage of the structure. We reduced that from the 204 to 192. And then finally the setback, which I think we still have at 13 feet due to the nature of the yard. So the 3 remaining requests are those the last 3.
Push the volume over a little bit,
Oh,
just
sure.
so we can see them.
How's that?
Perfect.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. So I believe that's the summary. Any questions or more information you would like from us? Or
You said you had other structures that would help support your asking for that size structure.
we provided we looked at eight different addresses, the best ones we could find in looking around. And we did provide those addresses.
Well, it's not practice for me to go and search all the variances. So, for instance, one of them was John Casey's as a previous review. So I couldn't find any that you had approved that were double the allowable.
I don't remember any recently.
Setbacks, yes. double the square footage, you know, almost.
I guess the question, I wasn't here last week, but I read the minutes. And, why do you need the 100, the additional 92 square feet?
For the shed in the first place?
Yeah.
Well, there's no garage space, as you can see when you're there, Chip. There's no, we have very limited storage space in the whole structure. The previous owners had a little bit of storage space to the lower left. We have some there, it's also laundry room as well. So we have a lot of, lawn furniture, there's toys for grandkids, there's just a lot of things, and we're having to literally move things off property in the winter to try to provide ample storage for us to store the things we need.
I'm storing linens with lawnmowers.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing.
Anybody else on any other questions or? No?
Did I read somewhere there was one of the coverages is a pre-existing nonconformity?
I believe the lot coverage was pre-existing, right?
Yes,
So
it is.
that's already non-conforming. Again, we did reduce it by 2.5% from the initial request, but that was already it.
Our main structures are 42%,
Okay.
so
Right.
we're done there.
I think it's important to remind the board that the allowable size of an accessory structure in RLD in front is 100 square feet.
Yeah.
If we were to do 100 square feet, we wouldn't be able to put in what we need to put in it. And
Yeah, we already kind of measured the stuff we would want to store, and it wouldn't
Yeah.
fit.
we thought about a garage. That would mean up 2 sets of stairs, and we're not getting any younger. We were advised to go down lower. That would be taking care of all of our family entertainment space where we play pickleball, not pickleball, I play pickleball, where we play
It's where the grandkids play too.
Grandkids
It's the main
play,
space we have that's safe for the
Jenga,
grandkids to play.
it's,
Yeah.
there would be no entertaining, no leisure space left if we moved it down closer to play.
Plus, I think our opinion and that of some others too is it would really, I think, be an eyesore
Yeah.
from the water side, because it would be really, really close, right forefront of the water area.
It's going to look exactly like the house, so it's not just a shed, it's actually a structure,
I'm gonna make it almost a miniature version of the house itself.
which the house itself is going through.
Yeah, a lot of updates.
a lot of updates.
The discussions last month were about the height particularly and the size. And the height is not an issue. I don't know what the size is.
It's 12 by 16 is what we reduced it to.
Right, and we talked about in the RLD particular, that's been a very hard variance to try to grant.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Do you have any further information about the presented board before we close the public hearing?
No, I believe we did provide a number of pictures too from the previous meeting that's on record, so I believe we have nothing else we want to provide at this point.
In this case, I will close I didn't ask for anybody from home.
Anybody on?
Should have anybody on Zoom have any questions on this application? Assume not. Okay, then we'll close the public hearing. We have 62 days to make a decision on the application. Typically, we will vote the same night. Welcome to stay around if you'd like for any discussion. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you. Okay, the next one is Lisa Callaway, owner of property at 2970 State Route 21. That's requesting a 3.3 foot area variance from the side property line for a proposed 34 by 26 addition to an existing garage.
Patrick, can you please turn your, there we go, thank you.
Sorry about that.
Hey, can you hear us okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Patrick, do you want to tell the board your plans, your proposed plans?
Yes, we wanted to expand the garage out the back and off to the side by 10 feet for additional storage for our recreational equipment and tools. Since I have moved in with Lisa, we are combining both our households.
We're just trying to get the site plan up here. Could you go over your thinking in terms of asking for the variance and why you need the variance, why it can't be placed in any other location or?
The need for the variance is the original garage is slanted, so it kind of directs us towards the neighbor's property line, and it's a slight angle. There's not really much other room in the back with the trees and a raised garden and everything we have back there now.
Is there a reason you couldn't shift it so that it was in line with the garage?
Well, we had it in line on the right-hand side, the inner side towards the house, you know, because the deck would be there. We didn't want to have the jut out sticking that way where you'd see it every day.
Any thought of making it less wide, well, I guess longer and less wide, or into the other way?
Yes, there's a tree in the behind it, so I really can't go much farther deep without encroaching. It's a pretty big tree, so I'd have to take it down.
That'll be left then?
What's that?
The tree will be left there?
Yes.
Yes. Any comments from the board, questions?
What about the Jim Fletcher's comment about the one exit? Did you see that? On the it's Callaway property. He said, I was reading the email. Let's remove the exit to the North Street. I said, there are several entrances in the area. Am I reading the wrong thing or?
No, that's artisan meat.
It's what?
There's only one driveway
I
here.
was gonna say, I like so.
All right, well, it says that, I'm looking at some email that's under their case, so.
You might, yeah, that,
Oh,
Yeah,
he
comment.
skips from one to the other without it always being evident.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I was wondering where that was.
Yeah, I think that's his artisan meat.
Okay.
They,
It's under the Callaway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was confused by that as well, so.
No,
Now you know why.
only one driveway and one exit.
I was
Yeah,
like,
only one driveway.
all right.
Have you spoken to the neighbor that'll be closest to the new addition?
Yes, we have. We asked him to submit an email. I thought he said yes, but we could be mistaken. He has no problems with it. We spoke to the neighbor on the other side of us too, and they don't have any problems with it. And then there's nobody behind us. It's just woods.
I didn't see any emails. I didn't see any emails from neighbors.
Me either.
Good, I'm crazy.
Yeah.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, I didn't
It
see
would be in
it.
here. And I always send them to the board.
Any other questions or comments? Dave, you look like you're.
Well, I didn't see the tree. That was,
You wanna see?
Here
the-
it is.
I was trying to grab the tree.
oh, that's what, yeah, that's better.
Yeah,
Okay.
so here's the perch. I have the other photo too.
Okay.
Here's one
So
that,
one of these trees back here.
here you go, this one.
Looks like the bigger one to the back.
Oh. Too fast. So I think that's what it is, right?
Yeah, it's the light, the one that's the light color on it,
Yeah.
on the left-hand side there. Yeah, that one.
So all the trees will be left?
What's that?
All of the trees will remain?
Yes, yep.
There's enough trees back there. Anyway, so. Yeah. There's quite a few trees back there anyway, so.
Yeah, we like the trees, so we
Yeah.
keep them.
I don't have any other questions. What, any other variances that you know of in that area?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Remember using that?
I don't know. We don't usually get too many for that area.
We don't,
No,
we
there
don't
was
see
a
a whole
pool.
lot in,
Yeah,
on that side
it's
of
a lot of,
town.
it's pretty spacious over that way, so. All right.
You know what, the last one we saw, I think was it 3055? Back here, what was this one? I think there was a garage. Isn't that Eric Cooper's parents?
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that one is, that's a totally different property though.
That was one of those with several front yards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not, yeah, it's kind of
That's
weird.
the closest one I can think of, reasonable, for this side of town.
Yeah, no. We did a pool one time or something like that, a fence.
Okay, no other board questions? Anybody in the audience, either in person or on Zoom, have any comments or questions regarding this application?
From what I heard, it just sounded reasonable for the price. I don't have all the documentation, but from what I heard on the presentation, it sounded.
Could you identify yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. My name is Lodewijk Human. I live in Middlesex, but I have some land here in County neighborhood. From what I heard in the presentation, the request that the gentleman had seemed reasonable. That's all.
Anybody else? Patrick, do you have anything more that you'd like to present before we close the public hearing?
Patrick, do you have any more information or comments before we close?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
And we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. We have 62 days to render a decision on your application. We typically would vote tonight, and you're welcome to keep watching and for the deliberations. Once the hearing is closed, no further information can be given. So, okay, we'll go ahead and close that. All right. The next one is Venezia and Associates for, pardon?
Let me just look at mine if you want.
Representing Ludwig Kunin, owner of property on Hickox Road, requesting the following area variances. This is a subdivision, lot 1, a 282 linear foot depth variance, and lot 2, 68.87 foot linear depth variance, and lot 3, 144 linear foot depth variance. Rocco, are you there?
He's here.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can hear you, yeah.
So I'm here on behalf of Bud Kunin. He wants to sell off these 3 parcels. We've got it in front of the planning board, and we're here tonight for something that this is, in 40 years of doing business here, this is the first time this has ever come up for me. I was unaware of it. But Shauna pointed it out that it is in a code that a lot can only be certain so many feet deep, a percentage of the width. And the way I had these lots proposed, I was going back further than what that segment of the code allowed. So we just don't have a solution for it, and that's why we're in front of you to get it, to get some relief from this. We would like to cut the lots off as they are. We think that, it conserves farmland by not leaving pieces back there, and we don't know what we would do with those pieces back there, to be honest with you. There wouldn't be any good way to access them. So it only makes sense that the people that buy the land out front have the opportunity to buy back, which would, which makes sense to me. And like I said, I know there's parcels all over the county that are of this shape and configuration. I don't know how they got out there. I don't know. I've never done a variance for this, so I'm sure they were just created before some of these zoning rules. I don't know when the zoning rule came in place, but like I said, it's the first time I've encountered it. I was totally unaware of it until the town pointed it out. But that's why we're here tonight, and I think that might be Bud over on the corner there by the podium.
Yeah, he's here. That's me.
So maybe he's got something to add, but that's basically what we're asking for tonight.
Shall I comment, or do you have questions for Mr. Venezia?
No, go ahead.
Okay. No, I just, when I first approached Sean and asked her about possibilities of subdividing this land, the only requirement I was told about was having at least 200 feet of road frontage. And then, so we, after deciding to go ahead and put it up for sale, Mr. Venezia, I hired him to do all this paperwork because this is all novel to me, and the survey, of course. And then he said, as he said in his own presentation, this is the first time he'd seen this in his 40 years. When my wife and I purchased this land initially, our goal, we did like to have it deep, so I was planning to retire 10 years ago and have a nice big lot and a little bit of farmland for myself. But those days are best laid plans of people that go astray. So at this point, I have a house. I grew up in this area, but I live near Middlesex now. I have no real use for the land. I'm currently rented to the Millers, Charlie Miller, and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his wife's name, Ellen Miller. And they also farm the land to the east of that, the Sodders land. You see where Shauna has the arrow on the 30 acres right there. And then I believe the Millers also farm that land behind it. And so they have access only through our land, I think, and from County Road 32. So people who have proposed or offered purchases on these parcels, the proposed subdivisions, realtors, as you know, often like to buy and sell or apart. The people on the north end, the parishes, I noticed Lisa Parrish's name was up there, although I didn't see her. They were very keen on this 8-acre parcel in the north to get away from from being in a tight subdivision. And the other folks also just indicate, the little indications we have is that they wanted a deep lot to be away from the road, and which is what these parcels offer. As that we had no indication that this 2.5 width to length ratio was an issue. So it came up after we submitted the application for subdivision.
I don't remember ever running the process.
It's there.
I'm not saying it's not there,
Right,
I'm just
the
saying.
three, it kicks in with 3 acre parcels. That's where,
Right.
yeah.
So if it was divided into 2, it would alleviate the issue.
Well, yeah, there's no access to the back of, as Mr. Venezia said, there's no access to the back of the land by
Yeah.
any public road or anything.
But if you created 2 parcels versus 3, you would have.
You wouldn't
you'd
have the
more
width.
frontage,
Right.
You'd have the width.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite.
I'm sorry. So the issue with the road frontage, if you made them into 2 bigger lots, it would actually alleviate the issue.
Yeah, no one wanted to buy it bigger, but I offered it for sale for any side people wanted.
Yeah.
And those are just by good fortune that offers came in.
Oh,
Initially, we had offers for 4 different parcels,
Right.
and they fell through for a variety of reasons. One person wanted a flag lot on the north end, and Sean had told me what they required, and so the guy looked into it.
We're not fans of flag lots, right?
No, but the man looked into it, all the things, but he really wanted it. He wanted to be at the back corner, northeast corner. And he found out that the cost of bringing electricity and water all the way back there was just beyond his means after buying, in addition to buying the land. So which is another reason I think that the variance probably, I would request the variance be granted, because to get anything back there, utilities have become prohibitively expensive.
I think that if we didn't get the variance and we had to, we'd have to pursue trying to connect it to a neighbor somewhere, and it just seems it just seems a lot better to have the people who are buying these front lots to have additional protection in the back. And as far as the town goes, we can put a note on the map that says these lots can no longer be further subdivided. And then there you go. You got AR2, you're trying to conserve farmland, and we created a 12, a 10, and an 8 acre. So we took a possibility of 10 lots, brought it down to 3 forever. You think it conserves farmland. So that would be something else I could add to the mix. I think the goal of some of these laws is to protect farmland. And I think we're achieving that goal.
I think these are being sold off for residential, isn't that correct?
Right.
Well, the people on the southern and the central lot have indicated that they're in no hurry to build. They would probably continue to rent to farmers. I can't say that they won't ever build, or that they wouldn't still have part of the farm. I think their goal was to be away from the road.
I think, if we're gonna talk about ag, what we look for is continuity, right? Of cropland, so they can access multiple parcels, and farmers don't want to cross the road. And I can't speak for where this came from, but I'm thinking that it was to avoid unnecessarily cutting up ag land.
If this were prime ag land, I would certainly agree. I mean, it's if this were like the Potter Muck, it'd be worth $100,000 an acre probably.
Well, no, it's listed as prime farmland. It doesn't make any difference, but it would be, I'm just saying that's, unfortunately, the designation, the adjective prime farmland has nothing to do with the quality of the land, which to me is a joke, but that's the way things are done in New York State right now. Just dumbed it down.
So if this farmland period?
If it's within 10 miles of a city, it's considered prime farmland.
Oh. Okay. Well,
and I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that's another sidetrack. My question to you is that the deal is, as Sean has said, if this variance is not granted, you're just not going to have as many lots. And it doesn't mean that they can't build their, they don't have to go way back. They're going to be able to move their houses up closer to the road.
Right, then what do I do with the land in the back?
Well, it's a bigger lot.
It's a bigger lot. You'd have 2 lots versus 3.
Well, that's assuming someone would buy the extra acre if they could afford that. I have no idea. I mean, I said I didn't parcel them. I just the requested subdivision was based on people's offers on so many acres. And when some people heard that, the north acres are contingent, then other people came in with offers for 10 acres. Oh, we want to be right in the middle.
No, I understand. I'm just trying to.
I guess I don't think anybody wants to buy that big a parcel. And the people who rent, the grower who rented, the millers, it's all right, farmland.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing with you. I mean,
So
it's actually not a real bad piece of farmland at all. Things look pretty good out there right now.
Well, he's a good farmer. Yeah. But it doesn't produce, it doesn't produce the average amount of corn. That's what it says.
I guess in my mind, in an AR2 zone where you can have a house every 2 acres, and we're talking 3 per 20 acres, we're so far below, what could be, you can build by code, another 7 or 8 homes on there. So
Yeah, if we put a private
having
road
these
in,
backyards be a little deeper than what the code says, or reverting back to only 2 lots, kind of seems prohibitive in terms of, Mr. Bud here Mr. Cunin would certainly be hurt financially because, and his target is to do something nice. This is not something haphazard. I just don't understand, what the apprehension would be. I don't think the problem is self-created. I don't think there's anything else we can really do to alleviate the situation except lose a lot, which it just seems unfair to me that this obscure thing that sits out there in the law, and I'm not trying to knock that because I know there's all kinds of things like that, but pointing out that there's so many other parcels that are already in existence that wouldn't meet this code. I feel like it's I don't think it's that enormous of a request. Then I'll shut up.
Shauna, do we know the sizes of the lots across the street? Because certainly 2 of those are pretty narrow and deep.
There,
Maybe I think all 3. And the ones to the south also, I think, are quite narrow and relatively speaking. They must have all obtained a variance.
they may not have needed to at that time, like years ago, if it's old enough, it probably didn't need it. So I have another question, and this is not necessarily for you, this is more for my peers here. So if we subdivided it and then the owners want to come in and build on it, are they going to be in front of us for more variance requests because of the lot size, or what are we, because they're going to have restrictions on, how wide, is that going to screw anything up?
I can answer that.
All right, go ahead.
As big as these lots are, there's no way you would, or there's no way I would recommend they try to get a variance. The only reason they need a variance is if they went, too close to the road, which they really can't do because they've got to fill out the driveway. And then why would they go, when they got 200 feet of frontage, why would they get less than 25 feet from a sideline? So, and lot coverage won't be an issue because the lots are so big. So
All right,
in answer to that, no, I just think there's almost a 0% chance that they'll ever come back to you for another variance.
well, you said almost a 0. You realize this is Canandaigua though, right? We see stuff all the time that shouldn't, so, oh, thank you. Yeah,
I would say
Thank you.
0. And I think if they came to you and asked to be 22 feet from a sideline, I think you'd have justification for denying them, for sure. But in this situation, I just think it's a reasonable request on our part to not landlock a piece of land back there that we can't get to with any conceivable means. That certainly should be a part of what it's a part of now.
Are we looking at your
I'm just looking at the survey.
The other one?
Yeah.
It's got to be more than 2.5.
Oh, it definitely is.
I raise that only because there's certainly a precedent for similar size
Right.
lots in the area across the road.
Right,
Not necessarily for variance grants.
this is definitely.
the lots would be in keeping with the other lots in the area. I mean, some would meet the code and some would not.
I think when the ECB notes that they sent to us, the question of whether you could do something with the back number.
I don't
of
see
feet.
anything on there from ECB.
Yeah, I think wasn't,
Was there?
whether it could be,
Yeah, so creating a buffer area back here. Basically, almost I guess it was maybe an easement area or I don't know how.
Well,
you
Sucker
do it,
Brook is
but
back there, right?
Yeah, you'd have to have separate parcel.
Is any of that considered wetlands then, if separate? No?
No, we looked into that. There's no wetlands back there.
I think we had some larger subdivisions put in buffer areas. Or they were put in over Rifles Road. Off of Rifles Road.
How many acres is inside that yell right there?
I think it's 30.
It's just a hair over 30 in that, in the larger plot.
Right.
Yeah, it's 30.12, like one or 30.2. It's on the map I just put next to your colleague, Kelly.
30.2.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So we're going to
Another
A10
copy
as
if you'd like.
And then, I can expand.
I can say though that the folks who offered on the north and the central acre, they said they wanted to get to the back specifically. People on the 12 acre parcel didn't specify. But I think.
They wanted to what?
They wanted to be able to go all the way to the back.
Okay.
That was, otherwise, that's what got them interested. Like I said, they probably would pull out. Any other questions, for better or worse?
Yeah.
For me.
Rocco, you have any more information you want to give us, or?
No, I just, you know me, I'm pretty creative, and I kind of scratched my head trying to figure out a way I could get everybody what they want here. But I guess the thing I would appeal to the town is that it's AR2, we're making them big lots, we're willing to say that if we create these lots, we'll never come back and ask them to be smaller. So in the spirit of the code and the spirit of the law, I would say we did a good job, and maybe you could just turn the cheek and give us this variance so we can go on with life. We think it's a pretty significant hit to lose 30% of this because of this would hurt, would be quite a crimp on us. So we would just, like I said, appeal to you guys to take a look at it and say, you know what? As far as things go in the future, it is going to be better that it's 3 lots instead of 10 lots, which we could do by code. So
So are you suggesting some sort of deed restriction?
pardon me?
Are you suggesting a deed restriction on each lot?
We're suggesting that if you were to give us this variance, a condition of variance would be that we do put a deed restriction that says they can no longer further subdivide them. Yes, we are. And those do hold up. I've run into them, and if there's one on the property, there ain't no way you can get relief from it.
Well, at that point in time, the only way you could do anything would be to make a flag lot.
Well, right, I mean, you would have to do a flag lot or again, put in a private driveway, private right of way.
The 2 bigger lots we could cut again, because there's more than 200 feet of frontage, so. It's not our desire to do that. I'm just
From this
pointing it out.
line here and here.
So there's 1,151 linear feet along the front edge. Just measuring some artwork.
It's approximately the same depth.
Do you have anything further, Mr. Coon?
No, thank you.
Anybody in the
on this.
audience have any comments, including the Zoom audience?
I don't see any.
No. No one here? Okay, if there's no further comments, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. We have 62 days to decide on the application, but we will typically do that on tonight.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Is the voice working this time? Is it working?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was trying to technical difficulties. I did want to put a comment if it's not half a second too late.
And your name?
My name is Alicia Thompson. I'm at Thomas Road in Canandaigua. And I'm one of the potential buyers of Mr. Cunan's property.
Okay, can you turn your camera on, please? Are you okay with that?
I don't have camera access. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to comment along the lines of what Rocco had said. I did want to support, we are looking to keep a good portion of the property to be agriculture. My main goal is actually to keep the entire back portion farmed, and building would be in a long distant future. However, the goal is to have only a small portion livable so that the rest can be farmed, be it rented out to another farmer who's more established or myself in the future. So just to put out there, the end goal, at least of the 1 10-acre parcel, is to continue the agriculture of the area.
And you would be okay with a deed restriction not to subdivide further?
I would be.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll close the hearing then. Okay, moving on to the next public hearing. Theodore Shepherd and Maureen Burke, County Road, let's see, 5007 and 5009, County Road 16, Canandaigua, requesting the following area variances. 20-foot setback variance, 23-foot setback variance, 1.9% lot coverage variance, and 6.2 foot setback variance on the side for a driveway. Someone who's going to present this?
Good evening, it's good to be with you all. My name is Terrence Robinson from Ewing Mountain Robinson on behalf of the owners and applicants, Ted Shepherd and Lorraine Burke. Ted's here with us tonight. We also have with us David Hamlin from Hamlin Architects and Mike Tomlinson from Marathon Engineering. And there may be questions that will be more suited to David or Mike as we go throughout the presentation tonight. So Sean, if you could just show us the aerial image, I think that'd be a
Would
good.
you like me to do that?
Yeah,
Okay.
this would be a good place
We
to
got
start.
two lots
Yeah.
right here.
So if you can just scan just to the south a little bit so we can see Ted's property at 5005 as well, those 3 lots, sorry,
Let me pull up here.
right there, yeah,
This one.
okay. So between Ted and Maureen, they own 3 lots, they're all adjoining. 5005 is the current principal residence, and then they also own 5007 jointly, and Maureen owns 5009. The concept here is to reduce the holdings that Ted and Maureen have on the lake. 5005 would be planned for sale, and then 5007 and 5009 would be combined. Both of those are pre-existing non-conforming lots, so we reduce that from 2 non-conforming lots down to 1. And there is an aged seasonal cabin on each of those. You can see those there. Both of those would be removed, and then a new year-round residence would be built for Ted and Maureen. Ted and Maureen are year-round residents on the lake. Ted's lived on the lake his whole life. And like I said, the concept here is to reduce their holdings and have a year-round viable home that they can live in on the proposed combined lot. So in looking at this project, Ted and Maureen, like I said, are year-round residents. They're very committed to protecting the lake, and that was a key aspect of the design of their proposed home. The proposed house is in line with the building coverage allotment. It's at 15%, which is what is allowed in code. So it's at 3,667 square feet. So it's in line with what we see in the neighborhood. These parcels, if you're familiar with them, sit just south of Ononda Park. So in the neighborhood, there are much more substantial homes. We have the homes of the Sands family, the Wegmans, and other large homes in that area. This proposed house at 3,600 square feet basically will fit in nicely in that residential district. The home is within height. They didn't want to have any height issues impede the view shed from the lake. And another big part of what they're trying to do is maintain appropriate distances from the side and front and rear setbacks. So there's no rear setbacks that are needed. There is a front setback that's needed, but it's an improvement on what is currently there. Currently, the setback to Westlake Road is at 25.2 feet. That will be improved to 40 feet. And on the lake side, they are very committed to not encroaching any closer to the lake. The current rear setback to the lake is at 36.9 feet. And it's essentially saying the same. It's marginally improved to 37 feet, but essentially it's being kept the same. The driveway has been a challenge for this project. And this is a good one. Sean, if you can zoom in on that site plan right there. Actually, there's a better one that I think will be helpful. If you scroll down, there's one that has the trees.
Yeah, the landscape plan. Here.
Actually, this one right here is useful. We can use this one. So on the roadside, you'll see that there are 3 mature trees there. There's a 4th mature tree that will need to be removed with this project. The analysis and discussion was, how do we propose a driveway that's usable and feasible? Given the topography of the site, the ideal position for the driveway would be towards the north, where you see that largest tree there on the roadside, which would have had to have been likely removed for the driveway cut there. But lot coverage began to be an issue with the driveway in that position. Obviously, the driveway would need to be longer to reach the flatter portion of the property where the house would need to sit. The idea was to have an 8% slope, but that wasn't feasible as we moved the driveway to the south because the topography makes it steeper and steeper. So what they've done is they've essentially put in the minimal driveway possible. The existing driveway cut is very close to where the proposed driveway is. It has a slightly smaller side setback at 1.5 feet. We're proposing 3.8. But the thought process there was to essentially maintain that current driveway cut. There you can see the, thanks Sean, of the current driveway cut, rather than disturbing the other established trees along Westlake Road. Now, if you go back down to the proposed structure, Shauna, you'll see on the driveway, because of the steep nature, that 12% slope, it's really impossible to have that driveway without a turnaround at the bottom. You can't back up the driveway and onto Westlake Road safely. So they're required to put in a turnaround. That circular turnaround is about as pared down as we could get, still being able to turn a car around. We also pared down the driveway. It had been at proposed 16 feet, which is a pretty comfortable width, so that you could have a car pass if you squeeze to the sides, both coming in and out. They've narrowed that in order to be able to reduce lot coverage. So all the side setbacks are either improved or being maintained. The driveway, the rear, and the front. Our 4th variance, the lot coverage, is I think the one that we'll probably want to talk about the most. Like I said, a lot of it's driven by the driveway. Our proposal, 25% lot coverage is what is allowed. We've pared it down everywhere we can to get down to only 1.9% variance request. What that does when you look at it in terms of the breakdown is the overwhelming majority is the driveway. That, just to get the figure here for you. Accounts for 6.7% of the lot coverage. And I don't know if anyone has any other questions about the driveway and why it was positioned there before we move on.
It says paved.
Yeah.
Any consideration given to using
Permeable pavers?
Yeah.
We talked a lot about that. It was one of the things that I encouraged for this site. But given the steep slope of the driveway, it wasn't really feasible. And Mike can talk more to that if you want to.
Sure, yeah. So we did look at, sorry, Matt Tomlinson, Marathon.
Sorry, I got the
That's
Matt.
okay. Just in case you wanted to talk to somebody else named Mike, but no, for the driveway specifically, it's up gradient from the home and from the foundations. We are collecting that surface runoff. It is a year round, and so it will be plowed, salted, that kind of thing, and that really does not lend itself to the paver or the permeable pavement, just from a longevity and what it'll stand up to. A lot of times when you do those permeable pavers or the grass interlock pavers, that grass really doesn't grow and you end up with an impermeable solution that's a lot tougher to maintain. So the way we've tried to mitigate that is by picking up all the drainage in the garden area, and instead of trying to pick up the majority of it in inlets, we're draining it to the garden area adjacent to the house and then running some stormwater around the house in addition to some of the roof to the rain garden, and using some native species from the DEC's approved list within the rain garden on the northeast corner of the property with an outfall or overflow to the lake for larger storm events.
Great, Matt, thanks. Yep. But a good question, Chip, and something we thought a lot about. Any other questions on the driveway?
Could you configure the turning area any different? Cut down on it.
Don't
I
get
can stand up here for a while.
You wanna stay there?
Yeah, so we looked at a couple of different things. Rule of thumb really is about 30 feet especially for a two-car garage and residential, for a straight back out, because you really can't start cranking your wheel in order to do so. So a lot of times that will be configured in such a way where the driveway actually connects to the furthest away from the garage so that you can back out or pull in. In this case, this configuration really allowed us to shorten that driveway to the maximum extent possible. We did look at a couple other configurations, as was mentioned, and that increased the impervious on the site. So this was a configuration that allowed for a vehicle to swing around and pull into the driveway or back out and then pull out the driveway with the least amount of pavement necessary. I believe there was a comment also from the Conservation Board that talked about maybe putting something in the middle of that circular shape, but just given the turning movements into the door for the two-car garage, that's really not feasible. There's not enough room for vehicular movements with that incorporated.
Yeah, the thought process that they had was some sort of dry well, but you couldn't really drive over that and maintain it. It would be infeasible. Thanks. All right, we can always come back to the driveway if there's other thoughts that percolate up. I want to talk about our second component of the lot coverage, which is the walks and patios. So Sean, is there any way that you can pinch in on sort of the front step stoop area?
Lakeside?
Roadside, sorry.
Roadside?
Here's Lorraine.
The landscaping plan at the bottom might be easier.
Yeah, that's probably the better
Yeah.
one to use, yep.
The front, this area here?
Yeah, so I just want to talk about that. One of the things we did is originally, you got to have some sort of connector that is safe for pedestrian access from the front door to that side door there by the garage. And so we removed all of the impervious area that we could. There's essentially just a very minimal walkway, which you can see there on the left-hand side, that goes back to that side door. And we put in as much garden and landscaping area there as we could to reduce that. And then on the rear of the house, there's no superfluous walkways. We have a very minimal walkway patio out to the pool, but as you can see, it's not a wraparound. It's not a lot of lost lot coverage there. We have landscaping around 3/4 of the pool. Essentially, it's just a walkout to get into that pool, which we'll talk about in a minute, but it's a lap pool. And then there's no other additional walkways or patios around the rear of the house. Some of those were pared down as we talked through the project in order to get to the minimal amount possible in terms of the walkways. And we got that down to 1.9%. of the overall coverage. One of the other things we've done on the walkways that isn't readily something that you can calculate in terms of the coverages is that they're not going to be a concrete or uniform paver. They're going to be a 30-70 split. 30% of that 1.9% coverage for the walkways will be grass, and the rest of it will be fieldstone or some sort of paver. So it will kind of have a more garden type effect as you walk over those walkways.
But yet it's still calculated into the.
Yeah, we
lot
can't,
coverage,
it's still calculated into the numbers. All right, any questions on walkways? Okay. Sean, while we're on this one, if you want to just scan to that northeast corner, I'd like to talk about the rain garden for just a minute. Yeah, right, kind of where it says talking. So right there, you can see the proposed rain area, or rain garden area, excuse me. What we wanted to do is make sure that all of the overage on the lot coverage would be treated before it could ever get to the lake. And so that's the concept there. It will treat the 1.9% overage and make sure that we're not putting excess water into the lake. Now, in terms of the pool, it's a pretty straightforward pool design. Like I said, there's not a lot of extra fluff there in terms of patios and walkways. Maureen is an avid distance swimmer. The concept is that she wants to be able to have a place to swim. That's her primary form of exercise, and it's important to the lifestyle that Ted and Maureen have and want to maintain. She swims in the lake at times, but it's getting more and more dangerous with boat traffic. And she's a distance swimmer. She's swimming out, not just staying right next to shore. We were saying today, talking that even just 50 feet out, she has multiple times a year where she's has close calls with boats. She wears 2 bubbles to try to be seen, but it's not really effective. And then with blue green algae blooms, and we all know, the New York State Department of Health says that the guidance is for young children and animals, but none of us want to swim in that. It's something that is important then for her to be able to exercise. And that percentage of the pool is at 3.3%. There was a comment by the Environmental Conservation Board, well, can't you just whack that down to get the number to 25%? If we did that, it would essentially make the pool unusable. It would take out 58% of the pool size. So that is the project. We've, like I said, done a lot of work to try to make it as minimal as possible in terms of the lot coverage. The house is spot on. It's what's allowed. It's really just these 3 additional things: the driveway, those walks and patios, and the pool. Be happy to field any questions that anyone on the board has.
Terrence, just out of curiosity,
Yeah.
if you were to look at the property as it is today and look at the lot coverage of the 2 parcels together, added together, what would that be? Are we way over this, or
we have that figure. I think it's at the top of the site plan drawing, Shauna. I don't recall off the top of my head, but
It's a little over 14% for
Yeah.
the 2 combined currently.
The 2 combined for the 2 parcels?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a page, I think it's page 2.
Yeah, of the PDF, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that box, if you scroll over, has all the calculations. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, Matt's got it here. So existing is at 14.3.
If the question is, if you left it as 2 non-conforming parcels but built to the lot coverage, I think we'd end up with a total more impervious than what we are by combining it to the single lot, and there'd be more variances is what we anticipate. There's 2 pretty small lots today, obviously.
No, I understand. I just was, because they both look like they had, certainly the one had a substantial driveway on it.
Quite a bit of driveway, yeah. One other thing that I wanted to note about the pool as a question, we had put some verbiage in there. I think there might have been some confusion with the Conservation Board. We're not trying to imply that the pool would be any kind of treatment for stormwater or anything of that nature.
Yeah,
But
they did say
the
something
code
about
allows or requires the pool to be calculated as lot coverage. And that was just more a statement, there's no runoff from that pool into the lake. It's not like it's a paved surface of roof that's gonna have contaminants. So that being 3.3% of the lot coverage that's required to be calculated by code does not translate to any impact to the lake from the discharge.
Yeah, I saw that they said that was supposed to be part of the, like, to,
Right. It's
collect
not-
the water,
not
and I was like,
collecting
oh,
stormwater,
yeah.
just the rain that.
I didn't
falls straight
understand
down
that
into
part,
it.
why anybody would bring that.
And there was some discussion, I think it went a little maybe off the direct point about
Tangent.
it being a natural pool or some sort of maybe
Oh, really?
pond type thing. But no, it's a traditional pool.
Standard pool. What's the dimensions of the pool?
The pool is 15 by
16 by 50.
16 by 50.
And do we still have that rule with the 40 foot? Do you remember? Remember, because when we had the, yeah,
No, the pool dimensions are compliant with code.
I couldn't remember if we did away with it or not. Or changed it, yeah.
So one of the things I do, just as you're thinking about some questions, I do like about this project is that with the exception of the one smaller tree by the proposed driveway, this project will be able to maintain all of the mature trees on the lakeside. And that was a big goal of the owners, is not to disturb those.
What were the trees that were cut down some time ago? Along the north.
They look, yeah, they look old.
There was 5 dead ash trees on the north side of the property, and there was a large maple tree that was rotten all the way up through the center and had to come down. So we took those down last fall. The ash trees were ready to fall down, and so was the maple tree.
Chip, did the ECB, was there advice to go against this? When I remember, I read all the comments, but I don't know what the net result was.
I don't think they said, I think they raised questions, I don't think they said.
Yeah, I mean, I have them here. They essentially had 4 primary comments. They said that although not excessively large in comparison to the neighbors, and obviously we know some of the large homes in that specific area, the new home with the swimming pool will cover more area than the existing 2 cottages combined, which we just talked about. Obviously, those are very small cottages. But the owners have put forth a plan which addresses the needed variance, which individually are not great, but collectively may appear significant. They talk about the loss of the vintage summer cottages. And as you've seen them, they're fairly aged at this point. They liked it that the view shed wouldn't be impacted, vegetation would be preserved. They talk about the rain garden, and that the pool might be an additional potential collector of stormwater. We've talked about that not being the case. We're not pumping stormwater into the pool. And then they just say to help mitigate the effective overcoverage of the lot and help with stormwater, consideration be given to the use of pervious or porous ground cover. But really, we're already doing that in the walk. The only other place we could do is in the driveway, and Matt talked about why we have challenges there with that. I don't know, is that a fair summary, John?
I think so, I just, you did mention maintaining, or the vegetation, but they wanted to make sure that those mature trees are protected during grading operations too.
Yeah, and that's certainly our plan, is to keep all those rules.
I was just wondering how this was gonna be scored. They scored this, I mean, if the variance is approved or not, they've already came out and said 16 times we've gone against their wishes.
That you ignore them?
Yeah, pretty much.
And I didn't know this, where would we be facing this?
Weren't most of those under the previous chairman's regime?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that guy, you can't trust him.
He's an attorney, what do you want?
There were comments down below.
I think
The only other one that may have been noted was about using some native plantings, which we're already working with Maureen on some selections for the rain garden that are on the approved PEC list and that kind of thing, so we definitely will incorporate that into the final plan.
Yeah, in the bottom, they do build out some of the points in the narrative, some at the top, they talk about a bioswale being put in the center of the driveway, and want to talk about why that's not really feasible.
Is there any benefit to adding that somewhere else, or no, it's just because of the coverage of that
That's really
turnaround,
the
right?
intention of the rain garden and
Right.
doing
Yeah.
size to accommodate.
I mean, that was the only reason they suggest that, just because of the turnaround part, right? I'm assuming is what.
But we're taking that water into the rain garden, so we are very.
Okay.
So the water coming down the driveway.
Yeah.
Sure was coming, today would be a day that.
Oh, yeah, right.
Anyway,
First
where
time
is
it's
that
rained in
gonna
a while.
flow then?
Yeah.
Yes.
I watered my plants 5 minutes before I started raining, so.
We do have a trench drain along the face of the garage, but the intention is to
Also,
drain the majority of it that does not get to the trench drain right in the front garden area near the narrow walk-in steps. We have a drain inlet there, and that pipe will be perforated running along the face of the house before it takes a right to the east into the rain.
Whereabouts on that, like,
Yeah, you can go, yeah, this isn't touchscreen anymore.
Yeah.
I won't get too close.
no, that's all right.
There's a drain right here in the
Okay.
landscape area, that's the pipe, and then it'll turn that. And then there's a trench drain across the face of the pipe.
So like for that, I mean, obviously that area gets a lot of runoff, you know, and it's, we all are familiar with that, but like, do you guys like rate it for a certain, I mean, what do you do for storm wise
Yeah, we're
as
gonna
far as?
Size it to make sure that it can handle normal rain flow, and then we take a look at anywhere that it would overflow, which in this case would be over the sidewalk going to the
Towards the
north
rain garden?
versus obviously in their front door or into their
Right.
driveway. So we do give it a relief point and make sure that that's sized appropriately. And we'll work with Chris Jensen and the folks at the planning board to make sure all of that is up to code and everything else.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty neat design that they came up with. The perforated pipe effect gives you essentially all that treatment length before you get to the rain garden. You'll have natural filtration out.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
Gee, that sounds familiar for some
Septic
reason.
system's been, I assume, approved by,
It's in approval. You wanna talk to that,
We're
Matt?
working with the watershed inspector and Cheryl Robbins with the health department, working through comments with them. But yes, we've submitted it, we've done all the testing, the design, everything else. Yep.
So obviously the project would be
Health
subject
department's
to
a
that.
little backed up at this
Yeah.
point. But we're in the queue.
but it's not too close to the drainage. Because,
No, and we've moved it as far away from the lake as we can. We've asked for a couple waivers just for the setbacks to the roadway, but that is balanced out by the distance from the lake, which we're trying to maximize, of course.
Any other questions, board?
Anybody? Do you want to comment about the swimming pool?
Everybody knows where I stand in the swimming pool.
This is a retirement home for us. You know, there's 7 or 8 pools, a quarter of a mile from where we are. And they're really all what I would call pleasure pools. This is strictly a lap pool. That's how she exercises. She has arthritis. Swimming in the lake now, it's just getting tougher and tougher. The boats come in so close. You know, a pool extends the season for, it's, you know, I've lived in the lake my whole life, and it's kind of sad to see the lake change with all the boat traffic and everything else. And this just gives her an opportunity for exercising right here.
Won't read anything negative by her comments. That was
Nah.
directed at me.
He loves pools is what it is. He's a big
I
fan.
think the size of it certainly is, as we looked at other pools, this is very reasonable, 15 feet wide,
It's more narrow.
more narrow, and as is appropriate for
Right.
a lap pool. Do you have any more?
I don't have anything more to add unless there's questions, happy to answer those, but, and just in sum, I think that there's been a lot of effort put into making this the minimal variances needed. I love projects like this where nothing's going closer to lake, and I think the board feels the same, that's always good. All the other setbacks have been improved. Really, it's just this lot coverage, which has been pared down. I don't think you could pare it down anymore. And so we're pretty confident that this is the minimum variance needed for this project, and ask that the board approve it.
Do we have any comments from the people here or on Zoom?
So as Chair Chip, I might just ask for one little accommodation, given the obvious fact that this requires a supermajority and we're down a voting member. I'd like to have the opportunity just to talk with my client and our team before the public hearing is closed to decide whether we think an adjournment next month might be needed. So my proposal would be if you give us a minute, I'm sure the board could begin other deliberations, and then we could come back. And
Do we have any letters or comments from neighbors?
nobody submitted anything. Can't remember, Sean, if you already asked for public comment from anyone in the audience.
We did not yet, I know that, Ms. Sands is on, she's in the I don't see any other neighbors.
I think Ms. Brewer is as well.
Oh, Ms. Brewer?
Can I make a comment on this?
Oh, you absolutely can.
This is Lorraine Burke. Hi, I'm watching remotely. So I've contacted our adjoining neighbors to the two cottages, the three cottages actually to the north. And I haven't been able to get a hold of Nancy Sands, but the Mills is, and they're all in total support of the project. They said they'd be happy to write letters if we needed that. I told them I didn't think we did, but.
Nancy Sands is on the Zoom watching.
Okay.
This is the first I've seen the plans. Am I talking?
You are, we can hear you.
Yeah, and this is the first I've seen the plans. Maureen has my phone number. I don't see any problems with what they want to do. I looked at the materials before the meeting, and it's okay with me.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The northern neighbor is not on, is that correct?
I think he's right here.
Well, 501.
Yeah, right.
No,
Ross Anderson?
the next one would be Ross Anderson.
Ross Anderson is not
And we've
on.
discussed it with Ross.
What about, well, that's good.
And you have Wellens.
Edwards.
Edwards is dead.
We're
When you
getting
have
kind of far
highlighted,
away.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're
I
pretty
think
far.
would be most.
Yeah, they're not gonna,
In the,
there's nobody across the street anyway that we have to.
Across the street is Solid Woods.
Yeah.
And there's also a wooded barrier between Nancy's property and this
Right.
property.
Let me see that.
okay.
All right, so when we have a moment, that's
Yes.
okay?
We can hold things. Let's see, why don't we
So
You can-
adjourn this
yeah.
till you come back and we can go ahead and,
Yeah, and we'll just wait till you finish whatever one you're focusing on.
okay. Fine. So
Thank you.
So can I
adjourn
ask a
that.
question before we move on?
Pardon?
So does this mean that there's comments from the planning board in the case for this one?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
county planning board had comments.
Right.
Yes, I have them
should
here.
have them.
Yeah, which
Oh,
were,
okay.
How's that? We got an email on them, right? Didn't we?
I'm not getting emails yet, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for some reason they're not.
Their comments really were basically restating everything.
Yeah, we just talked about it.
Oh, okay, all right.
Did you find in all of that?
The board never grants, I just
Yeah.
approval for variance.
8-5 this one.
That's my standard.
I brought a copy of that, Shannon, if you'd like it.
Do you, I was gonna say, I could just pass my computer
Their
over.
final recommendation is denial.
Sure.
That's the standard though,
Right,
Yeah.
this area.
But it does.
requires super majority, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right, thanks.
we'll adjourn this for now and then welcome you back later. Okay.
Everyone's grant everybody a poll.
Oh, I'd like one.
Oops.
Okay, so we'll go into
I've done that in my lifetime, you know?
discussion.
Discussion.
The first one would be the continued public hearing, Brian and Mary Weiser. Any comments?
Back up. Good. And I was like trying to see which one it was.
Yeah, but we didn't actually pull up the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chip didn't see that. It's a double, and that's,
Yeah,
it's a substantial
Yeah.
variance.
192,
The height
right?
was nice that that went away, but I know the board has tried very hard to limit the variances in the RLD on these, but
Yeah.
Makes it tough when,
Sean, they had a picture of it before, a better picture than the drawing in it.
Yeah, the photos are.
Yeah, the pictures from. These are the properties, also. That's just the property.
I think the photo was buried with other ones.
Yeah, where is that?
It was a collection of photos.
The elevation? No, it's not.
Yeah, I remember seeing them before. I did see those.
This is the. It's the same.
It was like the land.
It's not similar to this. Here. Dave, is what you wanted to.
Well, maybe even that was a rendering, or I just thought it would be helpful for Chip to see. He wasn't here last week.
Right.
I did visit the site.
Yeah. It's hard up there. Yeah.
I mean, and that's where I am. It's of the five, it's just the level of, how substantial it is, and whether or not it's certainly not out of the character of the. I haven't been able to figure out the character of that neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's difficult because some of those properties have no property across the street. Some
Yeah.
do.
But didn't we just, like recently, I mean, like, there was a shed or something somebody wanted up there, didn't we? Have one, but they reduced the size substantially, I thought, right? Okay.
There was one of the boathouse. And
Yeah, something else going on.
all of those. I mean, there's just such a limited amount of space to put any storage and.
You know, it's hard, and it's. I'm trying to figure out where to put shed in my house.
Ideas, comments?
Yeah, what do you think? Let's click on the newbie.
Yeah, gee, thanks. Well, I did actually have a question. I was trying to do the math real quick in my head. If there was 100 square foot accessory structure, is first variance needed? The variance for lot coverage? I did the math last time and I don't have my notes with me.
I think it's
Building
just-
coverage was eliminated.
Yeah.
Right.
Coverage was not.
Right. But
They
is
would still need the variance, they already.
exceed the lot.
They're pre-existing non-conforming,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
So it's making it. more
Less non-conforming, but
More non-conforming.
Right.
Well, less non-conforming, but still non-conforming.
Yep.
Yeah.
So no matter what, the first request doesn't go away if you're
Right.
putting anything there. The doghouse
Nothing
there.
That, absolutely, you would have to take things off
Okay.
the property to reduce that.
If it came down to 100 square feet, what would the lot coverage be?
We could figure it out. It might actually. I think it's maybe 0.5%, I can't do the math off the top of my head, but it would be a lot, obviously.
Where are we at with lot coverage now?
Yeah, 2.7%. 1% for building.
So right now,
Yeah, 2.7 for lot coverage.
So you drop it down.
Yeah,
it's not gonna be.
like 1.5
that
ish, right?
It won't be that much more than that.
Yeah.
People are ready to vote?
Are we gonna vote on them individually like before, or all at once?
I think with this, you should vote on each variance.
Yeah. I think we have done that generally in the past.
That's the only way I've seen it so far, but you know, I've only been here 3 times.
Okay, Kim.
All right. The applicant is requesting area variance lot coverage of 45.4% when pre-existing non-conforming lot coverage is 42.9%. A 2.5% variance for lot coverage required.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt. Is this a supermajority issue? or
No.
No.
It's the last one.
Do you want me to read them all through, or do you want me
Well,
to?
we'll go ahead and vote on each one. So.
Let's do the vote, okay. Shall the applicant be granted a 2.5% variance for lot coverage? Dave Emery,
No.
Kelly LaVoy,
No.
Chip Saylor,
No.
Shannon Chevier.
No.
Applicant is requesting area variance for the square foot of an accessory structure of 192 square feet when 100 square feet is the maximum. 92 square foot variance required for accessory structure square footage. So shall the applicant be granted a 92 square foot variance for accessory structure square footage? Dave Emery,
No.
Kelly LaVoy,
No.
Chip Saylor,
No.
Shannon Chevier.
No.
Applicant is requesting area variance front setback for an accessory structure of 13 feet when 50 feet is required. 37-foot front setback for accessory structure required. Shall the applicant be granted a 37-foot front setback variance for accessory structure? Dave Emery,
No.
Kelly LaVoy,
No.
Chip Salem,
No.
Shannon Chevy.
Yes.
It's fine with the occasion, just as
Yeah, right. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, are you back and ready to?
We're comfortable closing the public hearing unless the board has any other questions, and comfortable going forward with deliberations this evening.
Do you have any objection if we go ahead and do the,
No, I'd anticipate that you'd call them in the order that they were.
okay, yeah. Well, he needs to remain here, the other. So let's go to the museum associates for Mr.
Did you
Kuhn.
want to do your
You wanna
findings?
go to court
Yeah.
first? Check
You want to do your
yes.
findings for that?
Callaway
Sorry,
Garage.
I was not, they aren't here.
He's still online.
Oh, I saw it.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, we should.
Were we doing reasons?
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
we
don't
gotta
you
go
normally
back.
state your reasons? So
All right, the,
that was what I was.
okay. The benefit to the applicant does not outweigh the detriment to the neighborhood. Therefore, the variance request is denied. Board's decision is based on the facts as presented in the public hearing. And is as depicted in the drawings and descriptions provided at this meeting. Variance is a significant one, almost 100% over the what is allowed.
For accessories.
Self-created.
Is self-created. The other variances are really affected by the size.
Yeah.
Magnitude of the requested size of the building.
Yeah.
But almost be limited away.
I'll look this up.
Here.
That was the size of the accessory structure, unfortunately, with it already existing.
Okay, let's go on then to Lisa Callaway. Any comments on this one?
I just feel like they're so close there. There is room. I know trees are a problem, but. And that's
You wanna
me.
see the plan again? No.
Sure.
It's not.
The slopes become an issue, but not in this
Not in
case.
that, no.
And that's just my feeling, is that I know it's not the ECB's plan to take down trees, and neither is mine, but at the same time, trees is here for, this could be here 50, 100 years, and
Not a
it's
large.
really close.
That's
not a
where
large
my,
variance. It's
that's what
three-
my comment was gonna be, is it
3.3
is only
feet.
3 feet, it's nothing substantial. And it is, because of the angle, I'd like to see on these where that line is, where the.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And it's
We
wooded
run into
behind
this a lot with
Crooked things.
crooked, yeah, we do. Do
Yeah,
we know how far it is from the front edge of the?
There is some, one of the drawings has it, it's.
Oh, from the front of the addition?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of them does.
Yep. Anything below that, up? Oh, maybe not, I
It's
might
gonna
have
be right-
lied,
Yeah, because it's gonna come off here,
right.
so.
It's 22.1, so if we could go back to the other again.
So 11. Here, so yeah, here's the
Anyway, it'll be less, it'll be, I just wondering if it was up to 15. Quick.
You guys move it over a little.
And I can see not moving it over to obstruct the walkway.
No, but it's open back there, right?
The problem is it's not, the addition isn't gonna park. They're not being squeezed because you can't get a vehicle down that line. That's the question, is if it were moved over, there wouldn't be the variance at all. And to me, there's just so much room.
Even with the trees.
But that's just my opinion.
Any other? Ready to vote? I'm ready. Ready?
Sure.
All right.
Applicant is requesting area variance side setback of 11.7 feet when 15 feet is the minimum. 3.3 foot side setback variance required. Shall the applicant be granted a 3.3 foot side setback area variance? Dave Emery,
No.
Kelly LaVoy,
No.
Chip Saley,
Yes.
Shannon Chevy.
Yes.
All right. Moving on to Venezia and Associates for Mr. Coonan on Hickox Road.
What we do?
Yeah, we do this.
Oh, okay. As depicted in the description and drawings provided at this meeting, benefit to the applicant does not outweigh the detriment to the neighborhood or community, and therefore the variance request is denied. The board's decision is based upon the facts as presented. You wanna close it?
They could do away with the variance if they just move, you know,
Okay, variance could be
it could be,
obviated by adjusting the shape, I guess, or
Position.
placement of the, I guess that's the big thing. Either placement or shape.
Yeah, an adjustment on that, and I don't think that the lot itself is a detriment to the
no.
changing that to avoid the variance.
Yeah. Okay. Now we will go.
We're moving on to wrap up to.
Yes. Yeah.
Any comments on this? This is a hard one. I mean, it is and it isn't. You know, he bought the property a long time ago.
To me, with similar things across the street, it's a
Yeah.
little hard to say you can't.
So what happens? So like if he, you know, like they divide into three, it looks just like the street across the street, just like you were saying. So we would put a restriction on the,
I think the restriction on not being further subdivided, I think.
that will,
In my mind, would make the case for approving it. Because, again, as Rocco said, you could, come in with
how short
bigger
are they?
subdivision.
How short is it? How, like to subdivide it, what does it make the frontage? Do you-
Well, the frontage along there was, I did it at 1,500 feet, so
That's
they need
7.
200 for a lot. So they could
This is a tough one. I mean, I
maybe
wish they
one
would,
more lot, I mean, really honestly.
It's pretty close, right? I mean, from the frontage, or,
I wish they changed code.
yeah.
I don't,
Well, I think
I'm
that's
not
not- I think
comfortable
we
with
should-
adjudicating the change in code for the town. It's, to me, I don't know why they did it this way. I don't disagree with Rocco, what he said about it, but at the same time, it is completely outside the code.
I think part of what we'll ask is if they look at this, whether or not that's an appropriate code.
Go back to.
We can present it to
I mean,
the board or whatever.
you know,
Well,
just,
you'd have to, yeah, if you wanna make a formal recommendation, you'll have ordinance.
just look at that.
I tried to look up the code about this and I finally found it, first of all. So, but looking for rationale, do we understand why this rule is in place?
Well, I think it was to do with services, wasn't it? Like access and flag lots, and there was a whole bunch of other things that went along with it, but I don't know, that was funny. It was more of a, like the services, I thought, for like fire and all that, wasn't it? I thought that was why it was in place. Or I could be wrong.
Makes sense, I just.
Because I understand
we
there
had-
being minimums, but the maximum was just kind of.
Well, we had that from, to the issue on, Cheshire, right? Horse farm, there, subdividing and
Yeah.
stuff, but, because it was long lot. I don't know if they did that, we denied it, I think, but. I don't know. I don't know.
Just thought I'd ask.
I mean, I don't have any doubt that Charles Mill, those two parcels could be still farmed behind wherever, if it was split in half.
Right.
I don't know whether it would work for, we was trying to deal with 3 or 4 different, it gets more complicated, but I don't know why they did the code the way they did, but that's.
No, I think I would recommend we would make the recommendations, at least look at that.
Yeah, because I mean, the neighbors right across the street have a very similar lot, or, what are you supposed to say no to them and not to, I don't know.
I had no idea when that was. So
That was right long before we were around.
Those aren't new homes.
No.
I don't know.
Are you ready to vote?
I don't know.
Call the question.
Applicant is requesting single-stage subdivision approval to subdivide the parent parcel of 30.195 acres into 3 parcels. The proposed lots do not meet code requirements set forth in chapter 174-9. Residential lots greater than 3 acres shall not have lot depths greater than 2.5 times the lot width. The proposed lots exceed the allowable lot depth. And do you want me?
I think we can do, well, I guess we should do them individually.
Individual? Okay. Lot 1, 8 acres. The allowable depth for this lot is 801.2 linear feet with 1,083.22 linear feet proposed. A 282.02 linear feet lot depth variance required. Shall the applicant be granted I'm sorry, these numbers are something, 282.02 linear foot lot depth variance. Dave Emery,
No.
Kelly LaVoy,
Yes.
Chip Salem,
Yes.
Shannon Chevier.
Yes.
Lot 2, 10.001 acres. The allowable depth for the lot is 1,008.8 linear feet with 1,077.67 proposed. A 68.87 linear foot depth variance required. Shall the applicant be granted a 68.87 linear foot lot depth variance? Dave Emery,
No.
Kelly LaVoy,
Yes.
Chip Saylor,
Yes.
Shannon Chevier.
Yes.
Lot 3, 12.193 acres. The allowable lot depth for the lot is 1,084.55 linear feet with 1,229.28 proposed. a 144.73 linear foot lot depth variance is required. Shall the applicant be granted a 144.73 linear foot lot depth variance? Dave Emery,
No.
Kelly LaVoy,
Yes.
Chip Saylor,
Yes.
Shannon Chauvier.
Yes.
Okay, as depicted in the descriptions and drawings provided at this meeting, the benefit to the applicant does outweigh the detriment to the neighborhood or community, and the variance is granted. The board's decision is based on the facts as presented in public hearing.
So
The
for the conditions of the deed, potential deed restriction?
Don't make sense.
Right, yeah. Just add in a deed restriction.
No.
The approvals issued on the.
Oh, it has a condition of a deed restriction to no
Right.
further subdivide.
Yeah, I just, right, let's, a deed restriction will be applied to the 3 parcels.
Which is the only reason.
And therefore would restrict further development on this parcel.
I would say further subdivision.
Further subdivision on this parcel, which in the long run, I think would have a much more detrimental effect on the neighborhood.
Well, and it is in keeping with the neighborhood too.
I guess that's what you say.
I mean,
Across
you
the
look-
street, there are similar lots there.
Same exact thing.
No. No, I guess I would recommend that. Can I just go ahead and send something to the, who we send it to? Your
Casey, and myself, the ordinance.
ordinance, yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Do you want it, read into the minutes though? Do you want to reflect?
Yeah,
the
we should.
minutes? Yeah.
I moved that I'll just send it, just requesting, that they look at this.
Review.
And make more specific, comments about its purpose.
Maybe intent, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Yeah, maybe it was. I thought it was.
Second.
Yeah, I'll second. Aye.
In a way, it almost is detrimental. Okay. Come back.
Well, they closed. They said they were gonna close, so we're gonna.
Okay. That's right. You don't want to add anything more?
No, unless there was another question that we're comfortable going forward.
Right.
Right, 5007, 5009.
We're right down to 5, and it's hard to argue that variance isn't warranted. It's neighbors, it's not substantial, it's a good plan.
There's already 2 homes on there, right? That we combined with one.
I mean, it's diminishing the setbacks in both ends of it.
Is it
I
gonna
didn't
have?
ask what the septic systems were that were already there, but I have a feeling this is better.
Probably.
So,
Yeah. most
There is
likely.
They did go, there were 2,
There's
it went
none.
into it in the application.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that-
also the control of the runoff rain garden. I mean, they're adding things to the property that may actually help.
certainly got the support of the
Filter
neighbors. and
water.
The view's not an issue, there's no height issue there. It's,
The picture of the driveway, I think, makes sense that it could not be.
certainly the character of the neighborhood.
And they did try to reduce, the coverage too by, adding stuff in, but they were constricted, with the driveway. As well.
And the coverage doesn't account for the material, the fact that it's a pool, so it's gonna radiate you.
And also they were gonna put grass and different types of materials in between, so. I don't know, that's my thought process.
Call the question.
Applicant is requesting a 40-foot front setback when 60 feet is required. A 20-foot front setback area variance is required. Shall the applicant be granted a foot front setback variance. Dave Emery,
Yes.
Kelly LaVoy,
Yes.
Jim Sammons,
Yes.
Shannon Chevy.
Yes.
A 37-foot rear setback when 60 feet is required. Oh, I'm sorry, the applicant is requesting a 37-foot rear setback when 60 feet is required. A 23-foot rear setback area variance is required. Shall the applicant be granted a 37-foot rear setback variance? Dave Emery,
Yes.
Kelly LaVoy,
Yes.
Chip Salem,
Yes.
Shannon Chevy.
But yes.
The applicant is requesting a 26.9% lot coverage when a 25% maximum is required. A 1.9% lot coverage variance is required. Shall the applicant be granted a 1.9% lot coverage variance? Dave Emery,
Yes.
Kelly LaVoy,
Yes.
Chip Salem,
Yes.
Shannon Chevy.
Yes.
The applicant is requesting an expansion to a pre-existing non-conforming driveway that will be 3.8 linear feet of the property line when 10 feet is required. A 6.2 feet area variance for driveway distance to the property line is required. Shall the applicant be granted a 6.2 foot driveway distance to the property line variance? Dave Emery,
Yes.
Kelly LaVoy,
Yes.
Chip Santa,
Yes.
Shannon Chevy.
Yes.
Okay, as depicted in the descriptions and drawings provided at this meeting, the benefit to the applicant does outweigh the detriment to the neighborhood or community, therefore the variance is granted. The board's decision is based on the facts as presented during the public hearing. I think variances, I think, are minimal. I think the applicant has done a good job in adjusting their plan, I guess, to minimize the variances. Particularly, I think, attention to drainage issues, runoff. There certainly is some limitation on what they can do because of the shape of the property and also the topography. They are managing to maintain major trees. One grove.
No.
No,
One goes, one at the end.
One at the end?
One right next to, there's a one right next to the current driveway and that one's gone.
It certainly is in keeping with the
Yeah.
character of the neighborhood.
Exactly. And they are not using the pool for any type of water collection or anything like that, as stated in the ECB plans.
Anything else?
I think that's.
Okay, nice to hear that.
Yeah, well. Close before, right down there, right? No, I think they tried to keep it away from everything as much as possible.
Board business, any requests for rehearing?
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thanks.
Any referrals from town manager? No. Referrals from the ordinance committee? I would request that under board business, we get rid of the vice chairman off of it. I mean, not get rid of the vice chairman, get it off. It is taken care of.
I'm okay with it. I told.
You just accepted it.
Well, it was under duress, so it's.
The July 19th meeting. I wasn't here. So
Oh,
I
that's
can't
right.
vote.
Do you want me to move to approve the minutes?
I think so. The only thing on that, I pointed out, it's under alternate, it
Yeah.
had none at this time, so.
Yeah, that's.
I was gonna point out, and the agenda still has none at this time too.
Right.
Yeah.
We're considering you a full homeowner.
Yeah, and you're not getting emails either, so.
No.
So
You are on our Outlook.
you're on the list.
now.
I got the one from you asking if we were all attending. I got the one from you today with the ECB minutes, so
Oh, okay. Making progress.
making progress.
All right, so I go to, I guess I'll motion to approve minutes, right? Or did you guys?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next month's agenda.
We don't have an established yet.
Does that mean we don't have any?
That does not mean. We just got through ECB, so, off the top of my head, I can tell you that Popeyes is coming in for a site plan. Roseland, or Widewaters Plaza by,
My old office building.
were you over there?
Yeah, we were there. I was there
Yeah.
twice. I was there with Smith Barney and with
Yeah,
Morgan
so they're
Stanley.
taking that down and they're putting up, they wanna put up a.
It was about time.
Popeyes.
It's been empty forever. Tell me if they find my ring in there. I lost a ring. It's like, geez, I wonder if I
So
could-
that, there's a setback variance for that building, and maybe possibly some sign.
So they're putting it right on that corner?
Right in that footprint.
Kind of makes sense. I mean, there's nothing over there, so. No. Popeyes, I've never had Popeyes.
Which one is this one?
That's it, fast food.
Oh,
I know.
So you know where the new car wash is, right
TJ
across
Maxx.
it?
Oh, okay, all
On your
right.
own truck, yeah.
Mavis.
Yeah, Mavis,
Yeah,
right.
Mavis
It's
Car
the
Wash.
old bank that
Oh,
sits on that
okay.
corner. I was in that building twice with two different firms. I still did
Yeah,
stuff.
so the, and, there's the others that are not really-
And then, just, I guess regarding the ECB, would have been nice to have minutes earlier. But, anyway.
Well, we got, like,
Right.
they're very detailed, so they take,
Yeah.
they take time.
They're
I mean,
very
that's the problem with some of our meetings, just how close they are.
Yeah. I think it might not be a bad idea for us to try and meet with them.
I'd be happy to.
I think just the tenor of their meeting was that we are much too lenient.
Which is
Which
scary.
I think is easy for them to say, because I think we can only rule on a variance request. We can't say anything like the trees that should have been there or whatever. That's planning boards.
Well, so I'll give you a quick backup. I don't know. So they were here. Yeah. And I'm looking right at her.
Madeline.
Yes, she came in, she spoke, and so was Sarah Linda Hooker, and, so we listened to him. And a lot of things were brought up about the trees, right? So, I mean, they were concerned about the vegetation and a lot of different things, which obviously we weren't real thrilled with having that in front of us either, right? So, one of the things that was pointed out, I mean, they did go to Kevin O'Faney.
Right.
They did actually talk with Chris. So so when they present us with this plan.
This is the applicant. When
Yeah, the
brought
applicant,
plan.
yeah, so they were saying that there's invasive species in there, which was brought up by Kevin. Also rerouting the water was kind of like, they're actually rerouting some of the runoff. And Chris Jensen said, just make sure you put it in stipulation if you prove it, that's not our we can't maintain that. They're gonna be flooded is what they were basically saying. But to keep the old trees in there almost wasn't, I don't know if it was even a good idea because it was, when everybody kept bringing up the trees, but the trees weren't gonna, I don't know if they would have really even stopped the flow, but they were gonna plant new vegetation to try to slow it down.
Right.
But that whole area is all open. I mean, you've seen the Sarah Linda Hooker property. I mean, the thing's like right on and we've had that other house that was there too. So they did do quite a bit to try to mitigate the water flow. And they went back and forth with Kevin a lot. And they said that was the most, and this is my understanding, the
I was
most
gonna say, if you
optimal position of the home
was right there.
was where they put it.
That was my major thing.
Yeah.
It sounds like they felt that having it that way
Right.
brought it closer to the stream.
Well, and
Kevin
Terrible.
backed that up.
Right,
that-
we saw
that
the
was
email.
that was the
out of the entire lot, that was the optimal spot, that if you actually moved it so it was within conforming and you didn't need the variance, it was going to do more, it was gonna interfere more with the riparian current
Yeah,
than where it was. That it was actually worse off if it were moved to be not require the variance.
right,
That's
which
what did
did
it for
move
me.
it, which
Yeah.
did actually move it closer to the stream.
Right.
So, and that was per Kevin Mulvaney, you know, what I mean?
Right.
And also Chris Jensen came in and he said a couple of, a couple of things.
have to rely on.
Right,
Exactly.
so, our point was, and our discussion was, do we say no, and then they put the house right in the middle, because they could fit a house in there, I mean.
Without
they-
the variance.
Without
Right,
the
and, but
variance.
it'll be worse off for the residents around them, so I mean, we could have just said, go ahead,
Well, that's what I said.
Yeah,
I'm the
right.
only one.
Well, and I said, do we tell them we
Rationale.
can't build it, and you said,
Well,
well,
no,
why
I
do
mean,
we have these, yeah.
The
so-
position that they had, and I don't disagree with it.
Right.
It was ecologically, it was a natural stream buffer.
Right.
That's the way it was, nature has provided. Well, all right, well, if you don't like it, buy it. The town should have bought it.
Right, well,
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm surprised they're even building, to tell you the truth, that in that spot, because I was like, it's just kind of there, it's not full of water.
Sarah Lynn was commenting about the cabin in the woods. That was a funny one.
I don't know if I must have skimmed over that one.
Yeah,
No,
it was there.
It's called, they're calling it their cabin in the
Oh,
woods.
yeah.
They're taking all the woods out.
Yeah, okay, she did make a
it
comment
won't
about.
look the same.
No, not at all. But I got it. I mean, that was where we were. I mean, we talked about it for,
I think it'd be good
For
to
a
sit down
long
with the
time.
ECB.
Well, and
They
that's,
may not understand that we're limited in what we can look at.
right. Yeah, we're not here to tell them, to
I
keep
think you
trees. and-
should sit down with them, because I think that I honestly, sitting on, I go to those meetings, I go to all
Right.
meetings, that they feel, that they spend a lot of time on these reviews, and they just want, validation, and I think that if you had an open discussion with them, that would be talking about just what you did. This is our purview, this is what we look at, I think that would go a long
Right.
way.
And we were taken into consideration, obviously, even though it's not even what we're supposed to be doing. We did take that into consideration, the vegetation, the trees, and, stuff like that. And that we're not there to mandate, just like, like you said, we're not there to tell them when to take trees down and when to keep them or whatever, but,
Environmentally, it'd be nicer.
right.
Nobody built anything.
Right, I mean, we get it, but yeah,
But some of the comments from the ECB, and some of what they were saying, and they got into climate change.
Yeah,
And
I
they
did
addressed
see that,
And it's
yeah.
like, I'm happy to discuss climate, but that's not our.
So when I spoke to Doug, though, when I said to Doug, I go, how much trouble, I was joking when I wasn't even about, wasn't what I was talking about, anything to do with this, but it was brought up and I said, how mad is everybody that we approved it? And he goes, I wasn't concerned about that, it was the garage on the steeper slope was what.
across the street one.
Yeah, so he goes, he was more concerned with the steep slope laws than he was even with that particular parcel. So I was actually kind of surprised to see all the information come back from UCB, and they didn't say anything about, more or less about the one that Doug was concerned about,
One next door to
so.
me.
Yeah, right, I know, right? Well, but, yeah, I mean,
They did comment on that one. On
But-
Scott Hill,
yeah.
They did.
but not like as elaborate as what they were upset about, for the other.
I think it's more of a global issue in that maybe, and it's Chip, we talked about this, things need to shift a little bit, and that the planning board looks at some of this stuff before you get to you guys looking at the variance, with them giving you a recommendation, like, hey, we're concerned about this, we're concerned about about.
We've had that discussion in the past, and the planning board says we can't do anything until you guys approve it. That's kind of how they passed it off to the zoning board, because, they're kind of constrained too, right? With what they.
They're constrained, and we're constrained with time.
Right.
We only have certain amounts of time that you have to review.
Yeah, we get it, and we try to run out, and,
Right. So if we could figure that out, that might be helpful, not for every application, but for certain ones that we think and staff are like, oh, this could be a problem, or this could be, this needs
Right.
more time.
Well, and in our, not that I have to defend our decision, but I'm like, Kim was here and she was trying to, get everybody everybody up and running, but several times I asked for Chris Nadler to come and we couldn't get him on the line. And then I couldn't get Chris Jensen a couple of times. Remember, I kept asking for someone to give me some information and they weren't on or didn't comment. So I mean, not to say that it was their issue or anything, but just didn't, we didn't have the,
You need, right.
we
and
needed more
sometimes
people.
You guys do need more,
information.
right, and you can absolutely do that, you can table it for,
Right.
like you have done. Like, we need more time, and you have the absolute ability to send something out to an outside agency
Yeah.
for review, you have a budget for that. You want, XYZ engineer.
Hey, we
to
could
do
send it out
something,
for
you can do that.
referral.
So,
We'll be so
But I do
backed up.
think the conversation, as you were mentioning, would go a long way, because I personally read into, so, yeah, this is all very hard, the very first time I ever voted, and then there's
Yeah.
just so much of that, I was like, oh my God.
Like, I think, yeah. Well, but we asked all of the questions, I
We
think.
did, well, and that's my point, kind of some of the feedback read to me as, you're just blowing us off, or you're just rubber
Yeah.
stamping out what everybody wants and everything else, and I went to print it, but we had 12 pages in the minutes were questions and comments and deliberation and everything on just that one
Yeah.
case. So it wasn't done lightly. We asked questions, we referred to, different things and whether or not it was within purview and all this. So
Right.
I think there's the back and forth to understand that when the cases come up, we are driving out to the site. We are giving, you walked it, one of you walked it.
Well, I walk by it all the time anyway,
Yeah,
but I
there you
mean, like, so.
So, there is a lot of deliberation on this side too, from what I've seen.
Well, and the thing is that, we are limited by the code.
Right, right.
And that's the problem. There's so many things that, you go for a variance, but that whole issue was substantially outside the code. It's a problem.
Yeah, and then you had the county in there and you had the other different departments.
I'll reach out.
Yeah, see if that's fine for us.
Anything else?
No. No, my computer said no too.
Make a
Like a
motion
shut
to
off.
adjourn?
Second?
Of course. I second, whatever, whoever.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.